Is it time to retreat and process your experiences, reminiscing and learning from the past? Do you have what you need materially and spiritually? These are all questions and pressures that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for July 30th to August 5th, 2025 are bringing. Well, hello there. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic weather. As a certified human design professional and intuitive coach, I'm on a mission to help you know, live, and love the magic of your true nature. So here we are. And that's this transition from July to August. It just seems like summer is zooming by here, but let's get into the weather for this cycle. It begins on July 30th at 6:57 a.m., going until August 5th at 4:01 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal time coordinates, that's starting on July 30th at 12:57 p.m., going until August 5th at 10:01 a.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun Earth activations as that 70% of the conditioning field. We're sticking with the Sun being in a throat gate, the Earth being in a root gate once again for this cycle. So we have the Sun moving into gate 33, the trait of privacy and retreat in the throat center. That's the uppermost square in the chart and the center for communication, expression, and manifestation. It's part of the collective abstract circuitry that's all about sharing the lessons and wisdom of our experiences. This is also a gate that's part of our cellular memory. So there can be these real revelations that come through here. When you get to the throat, you get to the end of any process. Everything wants to get to the throat in your design. And then once it's expressed, that's it. And here it's the end of an experiential cycle that you've committed yourself to. Now, this trait is about taking that time to retreat after an experience, to go within and reflect on the lessons and the wisdom you've taken in yourself or gaining that wisdom and what you've taken in from others. There's this kind of weaving process here to bring together this experiences with others that are held in your cellular memory for that deeper perception. Its keynote says active withdrawal and the transformation of a weak position into a strength. The weak position is that without withdrawing into retreat and reflection, you don't have the wisdom yet. It takes time. And if you don't get the wisdom, chances are you're going to end up repeating a similar experience. This is cyclical, having to go through the cycle again, and it's going to feel then like you're stuck in a loop. Now, the voice of this trait is I remember, or I don't remember. Sharing experiences means that each generation doesn't have to start from scratch. This is the voice of the historian, remembering what happened in the past so that we can use that to navigate the future. You may find yourself reminiscing more about the past in this cycle or hearing reminiscences from others. You may find that you're wanting to retreat and process. This isn't about avoidance, right? It's not retreat. I got to get away from this. It's really about allowing time to get clear on what wants to emerge. The caution here is that the polarity of just wanting to jump right into another experience before you've processed the one that you're in or have just completed. Yeah. And then you're not, once again, going to gain that wisdom. And always so important that when it's time to share the lessons and the wisdom, which is something else that this trait does, you've got to follow your strategy and authority, waiting until you're invited to share. So it's the right time to the right people. If you're creating something that involves drawing from your experiences, this could be a really supportive cycle for organizing your information. This is a trait that brings a pressure to reveal your secrets and those of others, that knowledge or wisdom that was previously hidden. So, just giving you that caution, there can be out of this pressure, this blurting out of secrets that you might regret after they come out. All right, the Earth is grounding the sun's position in gate 19, activating the trait of wanting in the root center, which is the bottom square of the chart. The root center is a motor and a pressure center, bringing that adrenalized drive. Gate 19 is part of the tribal circuitry that always carries an underlying theme of mutual support. In fact, this trait brings the fuel for support, for you supporting others and to receive support. Its pressure is going to bring a sensitivity to what you need and to what others need in your family, in your community. When we talk about tribal, it's the groups that you participate in, the family units that you are part of. The opportunity it brings is to really look at your resources. Do you have what you need materially and spiritually? Where you have abundance, how do you want to invest that? Where you don't have what you need, who or what might be able to support you? The keynote for this trait says that all things are interrelated is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. Again, this is tribal. There are relationships. We approach each other to give or get that support. It's all interrelated. And it's about having access to resources. When we support each other, it can help us all have what we need. This is the fuel for this tribal process. Now, the caution here is that there's a difference between dependency, that support turning into you being dependent on another or another being dependent on you, and interdependency, support through each person bringing their gifts to the table, so to speak, and being able to fulfill a need that the other has while receiving the fulfillment of a need that you have. So, one person might be really good at making an income, and another person might be really good at doing the accounting of income versus expenses, and another one might be really good at finding those best bargains, and another one might be really good at finding the best investments. And when you weave that all together, it can be really supportive for each other. The tribal traits have a very strong theme of correct bargains. So looking at any place where you might be leaking energy, so to speak, resources, time, if something seems off or unfair, please take a bit of time to be with it. Get some awareness, some clarity on what's going on there, whether it's fair or not. This trait itself is not in an awareness center, so it takes time to get clarity. If you don't have the resources that you need, you could be hypersensitive to that in this cycle. It's part of a channel of sensitivity. You might feel an amplified sense of being unsupported. You might enter into bargains to get what you need that are actually not correct for you. That adrenalized pressure of the root could have you jumping too quickly without getting that clarity first. It's key that you don't give up who you are as an individual to get what you need. But the mind could certainly jump in and have you doing so out of this pressure. The ideal is about each person in community contributing to the resources so that everyone has what they need. Everyone is empowered. You might find that you really like to have a full fridge this cycle, or always, if you're someone that has this trait in your own design. It's kind of an emblem of having what you need, symbolic of having what you need, having that full refrigerator. This is also a trait that enjoys touch. So cuddling or reacting adversely to something by "don't touch me" could be really amplified this cycle. When we put these sun and earth traits together, what you need and want may be woven into what you're making sense of in your retreat. There could be reminiscing that fosters camaraderie and mutual support. You may find yourself retreating when someone is asking for support or resources. There may be wisdom shared about past codependent relationships or supportive relationships. All these are possible with this combination. Okay, let's move into the channels now. A reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving the activation of the related traits and qualities. So everyone in the world ends up having it, and it has a big impact that way. Now, this cycle, we just have 3 channels that are being created by a transit of the moon. That means they're just tasters, they're just little samplers, because the moon only stays activating a trait or a gate for about 10 to 11 hours, give or take. So I'll just give a brief review of each of these. The first is coming in on July 30th. In fact, it's already here. It came in just before this cycle started at 5:33 a.m. and it's going until 4:48 p.m. That's Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, it came in at 11:33 a.m. on the 30th, going until July 31st at 10:48 p.m. Sorry, July 30th at 10:48 p.m. The moon has moved into gate 57 with Uranus, connecting with Uranus position, gate 20. This creates a channel of the brainwave, a design of awareness. It's the place where the intuitive insights that come through an acoustic knowing in gate 57, it's in that splenic center, now has access to the throat to be expressed through gate 20, the trait of the now, very existential trait. The expression that can flow through here is what you know now. Just remember once again that you don't want to just blurt it out. You want to follow your own strategy and authority. So the right people hear it at the right time. Next up, we have coming in on August 3rd at 12:16 a.m., going until 11:31 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's coming in at 6:16 a.m. on August 3rd, going until 5:31 p.m. The moon is moving into gate 34, the trait of power in the sacral center, the motor that generates life force energy, second square from the bottom of the chart. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 20, Uranus position in the throat center. Once again, together they create the channel of charisma, a design where thoughts must become deeds. We call this the channel of busyness. It's an individual channel that brings that power to take action, being busy, ideally being self-absorbed in something that you love. And it doesn't always have to be like a physical busyness. You could be busy meditating. It's just being busy doing something for yourself. And when you see someone who's really absorbed in what they love, it can be very charismatic. That's where it gets its name from. However, it's gate 57 in the splenic center, that trait of intuitive clarity that we just had in the last moon transit, that gives awareness to this channel. But gate 57 is no longer active in the transit field at this point. So if you don't have it in your own chart, you could be very busy for the sake of being busy and just burning energy on things that aren't of value for you. A reminder too that the individual gates, the traits and channels can also pulse into melancholy. If that ever happens, you want to channel it into your creative endeavors. Listening to music that you're in the mood for can be helpful as well. Okay, one more moon channel coming in August 3rd. It's actually the moon's going to move right into this after the last one. So coming in August 3rd at 11:31 a.m., going until 11:42 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in August 3rd at 5:31 p.m., going until August 4th at 5:42 a.m. We have the moon moving into gate 9, the trait of focus in the sacral center, connecting with Venus position. Gate 52, the trait of inaction and keeping still in the root center. Together, they create the logical channel of concentration, a design of determination. It brings the opportunity to sit still and focus and concentrate on problem solving and finding or mastering a pattern. So it could be something scientific. It could be as a musician, right? Anything that you're trying to master. Typically, you've got to sit still and concentrate. This is a channel that brings an intensity to all other traits in your design as well. The caution is that if you're unsure of what to concentrate on, it could lead to frustration. All right, that brings us to our long-term transits. A few changes coming in here. A reminder that the long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for longer periods of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind could start thinking that they're part of you, even when it's not something that you have in your own design. And when that transit finally leaves, that can create some confusion in your being. The north and south nodes of the moon continue to be sitting in gates 22 and 47 in line 3. So these are traits that together can bring this grace. That's what gate 22 is. And 47 can bring mental oppression and also realization. It's part of our mental abstract circuitry, that putting the puzzle pieces together and making sense of things, getting those ahas. But the process itself is quite oppressive. Now, the line 3 in the gate 47 position, it can bring this sense of like, why did this happen to me? Or how do I make sense of what's happening in the world? That's its detriment. That's typically what we see playing out in the collective. Now, it can also bring a sense that the eventual realization that one is really okay. I'll get clarity. I'll make sense when the timing is right. It will come in time, or it won't come. This is just something that's never going to make sense, and it's okay. The gate of grace, that gate 22 in the emotional center, its keynote is perfected grace, and it's grace that comes right through your form, your body. So there's kind of a body language that allows other people to sense like whether you're open to being social or closed to being social. All right, so that's what we're going to have in our environment, this environment where people really feel okay, whether things make sense or not. And there can be this attentiveness. Gate 22 brings that, this attentive listening that can be very enchanting, and the body posture, positioning, the whole form saying, yes, I'm open to listen here. Or we could have a lot of disenchantment and kind of closed off, a sense of unworthiness and mental anguish from that gate 47 about what is going on in humanity's experience. We have Jupiter sitting in gate 39, the trait of provocation and obstruction. It's changed lines now on July 30th. That's the day it's changing, pretty close to when this transit comes in. And it's going to be in line 3 as well, called responsibility. And it has a developmental theme that says the avoidance of confronting obstacles if failure puts others at risk. Its exaltation says the great benefic whose first consideration is for the larger framework, the energy to provoke through self-sacrifice. Now, Rod gave a great example of this, which was a teacher that kind of bullies his students, and the one that has the 39.3 is, that gate of provocation with this line 3 stands up to the teacher. Now, they might get punished, but it does help everyone else. There's a sense of a kind of self-sacrifice that happens here for the greater good, which is quite interesting because it's an individual trait. And yet, baked into it, individual traits want to mutate the collective and the tribe. So there is a relational aspect to them. Now, the detriment is the same thing. They've got, you've got this 39 line 3 energy, this provoking energy coming through you. But when that teacher is bullying, the not standing up. So the energy to provoke is there. The person doesn't confront, and there's a failure to make the sacrifice, and then everything just stays the same. It keeps going on and on. So we could see more standing up to things like bullying and actions that are not in the emotional spirit of abundance. This trait of provocation, it's pointing at the trait of the spirit, the emotional spirit, your passion. Where is it? Right? So we also call it abundance. Is the glass half full, half empty? Ultimately, wow, there's a glass. And so it's trying to provoke that spirit. So if things are not in alignment, if the spirit, the mood is not correct, we may find ourselves standing up to those who are trying to oppress that or diminish that. It may be something you do or something that you may see in others. And we do have this exaltation in the field. Now, it doesn't mean that the detriment won't play out, but there will be a stronger pull towards the exaltation. Saturn and Jupiter, Neptune has now changed lines. So both of these planets have been sitting in gate 25, the trait of the spirit of the self in the G center. So we've got the emotional spirit being poked by that gate of provocation. We have the spirit of the self, the identity that's being activated in the G center. That's our center that's associated with love, identity, and direction in life. This is also called the gate of innocence. It's the trait of universal love, or the polarity can be there as well. And Neptune's now retrograded back into line 4. So now Saturn, Neptune, both sitting in that line 4. This is a line that's called survival. And it says the nature of true innocence can be maintained regardless of circumstances. The spiritual warrior. There is no detriment to this line. Now, Neptune can veil or unveil. It can also dissolve. So it might help dissolve those ways of being within you that are not true to your nature. It could also veil the nature of true innocence. Both ends can play out there. Saturn's impact may be to bring discipline to the ability to maintain that innocence regardless of circumstances. And it could also bring consequences if you don't. Can you sit within the void of the unknown within you and be present to what is? That's the spiritual warrior. In the collective, we may see disciplined approaches that dissolve illusions that have been in place, things being unveiled, and there could be consequences that arise out of that. Certainly lots in the news. Uranus, with its unusualness, is sitting in gate 20, another individual trait in the throat center. This is the trait of contemplation and the now, a very existential gate. We saw in 2 of the channels being created. And its voice is, I am now. It's sitting in line 1 called superficiality, which has basically a theme of a reliance on shallowness. Now, that can be a little bit misleading. Its exaltation says the raising of superficiality to an art form. The sloganeer, superficial expression as an art form. The detriment says the superficial expression of the personality, the expression of the superficial personality. Now, this is just a surface expression when there's much more depth there under the surface. So it could have you expressing more superficial things, like how's the weather? But this is a line one, and line one is the introspective investigator. It always has that underlying theme to it. So there's a lot going on below the surface that would come out if your survival was threatened, because this gate is part of something called integration that's all about surviving as an individual on this earth plane. Now, in the collective, how we see this play out in the collective, there may be things expressed superficially, right? It says the raising of superficiality to an art form, the sloganeer. But to know the truth of them, you've got to do your own research and look below the surface. You can't just take things being said out there in the collective at face value. Pluto, sitting in gate 41, the trait of contraction and decrease in the abstract experiential circuitry, same circuitry as our sun's position overall, collective, abstract, all about going through cycles of beginnings, middles, and ends. Although in this one, it's about a new feeling experience. It points at the emotional center. This is the gate of daydreaming and fantasizing. That's how new experiences really start. You have to have the dream of them first. So it's the pressure to start a new experience through the dreaming. It's sitting in line one called reasonableness, which is, yeah, you can have all sorts of dreams about what you'd like to enter into, what kinds of experiences you'd like to have in life, but eventually they need to be narrowed down to one that you can really reasonably have an expectation of moving through and completing. So what's really reasonable for you to bring to fruition? Always with the experiential circuitry, there's a rule of thumb that is you've got to let go of expectations. In the collective, gate 41 can bring a contraction and decrease of resources, and then using that imagination, that fantasizing to find a way through something new. So it can be creative in that way. All right, so we still have this very strong individuality in the long-term transits, which has this energy of don't interfere with me. Individuals are here to bring through something mutative. The energy, doesn't want to be interfered with, has that kind of vibe to it. We also have very strong root pressure in the transit field. So for those of you whose root center is defined, but not with these gates, the 19, the 39, the 41, this is going to be something that will be active within you. And it's going to be even stronger for those of you with an undefined root center, but now where the transit field is activating it. So a lot of adrenalized pressure. Remember that the undefined centers take in and amplify. So that pressure, that drive, that adrenaline could have you take action on something at the wrong time. Now, this is, for me, something I have to watch. I have an undefined root center, but I have a hanging gate 49 in the emotional center. That's the one that can connect with the Earth's position, gate 19. And for this cycle, it means I'm going to have that full channel. It's going to activate my root center. It's going to bring enhanced through that channel sensitivity or insensitivity to needs and wants. But it's also going to bring an amplification of this pressure to provoke and the pressure to fantasize and start something new. If I didn't know about the human design weather, I could really get pulled off track out of that pressure. And that's the beauty of understanding the weather and seeing what's coming in, because now I can just allow the pressure without having to react to it, unless my strategy and authority says yes. And it doesn't have to control me. It doesn't have to take me out. I can just learn from these pressure. Oh, that's what that's like. Oh, okay. Yeah. Getting a sense of that. So same for you. If any of these traits, if they're in the transit field, you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. It's not who you are, but it's what you can learn from it. You can observe it playing out around you, but whether there's actually something for you to do with it will be according to your strategy and authority. So don't let it run you. I just want to mention here too that if you've been following design for a while, you probably know that we have a major shift coming up in February of 2027, when the background frequency that's been with us for the last 400 plus years is going to shift from tribal to individual. So all this individual frequency in the field, in a way, it can be helping us to prepare for what's coming. I'll likely offer a webinar on that shift at some point later this year. All right. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you want to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes, a bit of background on the system, you can grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human-design. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be very grateful if you could give it a like and perhaps subscribe if that feels correct for you. All right. So the transit field, going to bring that pressure to retreat and gain wisdom of your life experiences and potentially express that wisdom when invited, or just blurt it out before it's processed. Watch for blurting out secrets. That's something that could happen with this. Also, there's that opportunity to attune to what you really need materially and spiritually that can come through that gate 19. So just be aware that can also bring out a sense of neediness and potentially hypersensitivity, especially where you may not feel supported or you may not feel like you have the resources that you need materially or spiritually. Okay, with what's impacting the collective, watch that you're not necessarily taking things at face value. Remember, superficiality is there. Investigation may be needed. And in our systems, we may see below the masks that have been worn. All right, have a great cycle. May you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.